It's been a tough week for the president, ripped by the media over the Mueller investigation and over yet another White House shakeup. Joining us now from New York is Anthony Scaramucci, the former White House communications director and author of the book Trump, the Blue-Collar President. So this latest White House shakeup, Mooch, you're an expert on those. After a year of journalist predictions and rumors, the president confirming yesterday that John Kelly, the guy who fired you, will be leaving this month as White House chief of staff. Is that a good development for the president?
You know, well, I think so. And, you know, I respect John's career as a military person and 40 years in the service. And listen, he lasted 46 times longer than me, Howie, so he had to be doing some things right there. But I think the president needs somebody that really likes him, likes his agenda, and wants to work with him on his agenda. And he also needs somebody that can push back on the president the way the president likes to be pushed back on. I think the big misnomer is that the president likes sycophants. I think the real people that are closest to the president realize that he doesn't like that at all. If anything, he likes an honest, rigorous debate, but he wants everybody to know that he's the boss, he's the one in charge, and he's the one that's ultimately going to direct the traffic in the end.
But is it a misnomer that the president management style is kind of chaotic and he's constantly cycling through not just chiefs of staff but other top aides?
So it's interesting. I actually don't find it to be like that. What I find it to be is if he had a good hub and spoke system and he had one guy as his chief of staff that really liked him, and then he had fortification of confidence of those other people, the thing would actually run very seamlessly, just the way it did inside the Trump organization. Take you back to the Trump organization, 15, 20 years of solid management there. He had a hub and spoke system, and once he trusted everybody in those seats, he did well, and the administration or the company did even better. And so he just needs to get somebody in a seat that likes him, that can talk to him in a way that he likes to be talked to, that recognizes that there is numero dos, if you will. And then the last piece is he's got to get people in those seats that want his agenda, that are less establishment-oriented, and really want to help the American people. I mean, you have to think about the sacrifices that the president has made to take this job. I know people laugh at me when I say that, but he had an unbelievable life before he entered the American presidency. And, you know, you got a lot of these establishment guys that are trying to gum him up as he's trying to serve the American people. So let's pick somebody to be the chief of staff that will help him prosecute that.
Let me get you in on this layest media flap. So Rex Tillerson is talking to CBS's Bob Schieffer, and he says the president's pretty undisciplined, doesn't really like to read, and sometimes wanted Tillerson to do things that are illegal. President, as you know, tweeted back that Tillerson is dumb as a rock and lazy as hell. Should he be disparaging those who work for him like that?
Well, you look, I'm not in love with that tweet. You know, if I was there, I would say not necessary to do that. You're the president. I think it's unfair for Rex to be saying that he's trying to get him to do things illegally. I think all the president's trying to do is push the envelope. He's a big a guy that brainstorms a lot, makes a lot of suggestions. If some of those suggestions are illegal, of course he doesn't want you to do those. He's just trying to push the envelope of his creativity. But he probably shouldn't be calling him dumb as a rock. If I were there, I would recommend the president not do that. He would then laugh at me and say he's going to do it anyway, probably. But that's how it goes.
You know whereof you speak. So sort of a related question. Is the president helping himself in this heavy coverage week of the Mueller investigation, but with these constant tweeting attacks on Mueller, accusing his office of McCarthyism, going after Lyon, Lincoln, Jim Comey, does that help him in terms of the way the story is perceived?
So it probably doesn't help him in the way the story is perceived, but I actually do think it is helping him because I think he's really trying to set a message that he hasn't done anything wrong and he thinks this thing is dragged on for too long. And when you really analyze what took place, there's nothing even on the edge of illegality as it relates to the president. So I know other media networks are saying that he committed felonies and so on and so forth, but that's actually not true from the report. Even if you're trying to surmise what's in the redaction, I think the president's in the free and clear on all that stuff. And so I think he's exhausted. He's exhausted by this.
Well, let me ask you this. With the guilty pleas by Cohen and by Manafort and by Flynn and by Gates, some media outlets say, well, the president, you know, is involved in a culture of lying. I don't think that's fair, but it is also true that he hired all these people. Is that a fair criticism?
Well, I think what a fair criticism is that some of these things that happened outside of the campaign, maybe there needed to be a little bit more vetting of what these guys we're actually doing. But I don't think you can tag on the president something that happened 10, 5, 8 years ago, or things that happened, in Michael's case. And full disclosure, I'm a friend of Michael's, and I wish him and his family well. But in Michael's case, as it relates to the taxi cab medallion stuff, I don't understand how that can be pinned on the president.
Right.
So
that part is completely separate.
So it's totally separate. So if you're going to tell me that you're hiring thousands of people and that you don't have a few rogues in the system, look, at Skybridge, I do a background check on every single person. I have to tell you, we usually get everything right, but sometimes we don't. And, we fire those people very quickly. But at the end of the day, people are imperfect, Howie. Probably nobody's more imperfect than me, but let me tell you something. People are imperfect, and so at the end of the day, you're going to have situations like this.
Well, you've embraced your imperfections, unlike some people. And finally, there was just this emotional outpouring in the media of gratitude and affection for George Herbert Walker Bush. And the president, acted pretty graciously. He met privately with the Bush family. He praised Bush, even though it's well known he was at odds with the family, especially George W. and Jeb. Do you think he may have learned something after what happened after John McCain's death in terms of conducting himself on a sort of a higher road if the passing of somebody whose family he disagreed with?
Well, listen, just the stuff that I don't understand. He handled that thing like a gem. He did everything right, lent the plane out, went to the event. They asked him not to speak. He graciously said no problem.
So why did the media not give him more credit for that?
Well, because they're sore at him for all the other stuff. At the end of the day, he beat the pants off the media in November of 2016. They sort of still can't believe it, and he's still driving a very hard wedge against them. And so they've made themselves a story now, and they're pounding back at him. But at the end of the day, he handled that really well. And I thought he looked great yesterday at the Army-Navy game. And by the way, he got a very rousing ovation from the Navy and the Army at that game. Okay, so at the end of the day, look at his record, look at what he's doing for the country,
right.
And let's sort of dial it down a little bit. And I predict, Kevin McCarthy was on Maria's show earlier. My guess is that they'll cut a deal with the Democrats going into 2019. And my guess is he's going to have a very good narrative for the 2020 re-election campaign.
Well, we'll see, and we'll see how the media narrative develops as well. Anthony Scaramucci, great to see you from New York.
Happy Sunday. Good to be here. Thank you.